"Hello, Peyton. How are you doing today?" Dr. Schoenborn asked. Peyton walked into the room, sat down in the chair across from the doctor, and answered his question. "I'm fine, and you?" She looked at Dr. Schoenborn and tried to give him a smile that didn't look as fake as it felt. "I'm well, thank you for asking." He looked down into a file folder she assumed was hers and briefly read over the notes written in it. "So," he said slowly, "last week we talked about you communicating with Derek's parents again." Peyton flinched at the sound of Derek's name. "Did you, by any chance, do that?" He looked up at her with big, brown, curious eyes. They reminded her of the cows back at home that would follow her wherever she went, waiting with subtle anticipation. Peyton looked down to avoid eye contact, to try and get the image of Dr. Schoenborn with the cow's head out of her mind. He wasn't the best-looking man, and at times made her uncomfortable when he would look at her. She knew the moment she spoke, he would start writing down notes on his notepad as if his life depended on it. "Actually, I did," Peyton stated. Dr. Schoenborn's head shot up and looked at her in amazement. "You did?" he gasped and leaned forward with eagerness. "How did it go? What did they say? How did you feel?" He clearly couldn't stop the questions from spewing out his mouth. She didn't know where to begin and was overwhelmed with all the questions he had asked her. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump at you. I'm just very shocked. We've been talking about doing this for months, so why now? Answer me that first." Dr. Schoenborn was practically on the edge of his seat now, waiting for my response. "It just felt like the right time. I woke up and felt different. I can't explain it. I had been thinking a lot about Derek the day prior and wondered how his parents were doing, so I thought I would give them a call." Peyton didn't know what answer the man was looking for or what he would get out of her answer, but she couldn't explain it any better. "Oh, Miss Peyton, at last I think we are seeing progress," he exclaimed. Despite his comment being a bit brash, she couldn't help but smile at the little party he was throwing himself while scribbling away on his notepad. The past few months hadn't been easy, and no one expected them to be any easier after what she had been through. After the accident, she was assigned a therapist and was forced to go by her parents after weeks locked in her room, refusing to come out or do anything. Every week on Thursday at 11 o'clock, her mom would drive her to her therapy session, drop her off to go run errands, and pick her up afterwards. The first few sessions, her mom would walk in with her and wait for the doctor to walk her back to his office. As the weeks went on, she began to trust Peyton a little more and would start dropping her off instead. To begin with, Peyton had absolutely no desire to ever step foot into a therapist's office. She thought she was just fine and could cope without it, since only crazy people needed to go to see a therapist. However, when she had to see a primary care doctor for routine checkups following the accident, they were under the impression that she was depressed. The moment they mentioned a therapist, her parents agreed right away and set up an appointment. Naturally, she fought and argued about it and was adamant about not going. But when the doctor had mentioned antidepressants, she conceded. "Well, Peyton, I'm glad to hear you called them. How were they? Were they surprised by your call?" Dr. Schoenborn asked again. "Yeah, I guess. They were definitely surprised. Tears were shed," she said, and shrugged her shoulders. "I don't know, but we didn't talk about the actual accident. We just asked how we were and what we were up to. It wasn't a very long conversation. It honestly felt kinda awkward."